Hey, Joe Hubbard here from JoeHubbardBassVideos.com. Now, I'm doing something a little bit different today as a result of being inundated with emails about this wonderful new bass I'm playing by Fodera. The bass I'm playing is the Emperor Standard Special 5-string, which is a new and more affordable line compared to the more expensive Fodera custom models. I've recorded the accompanying tracks using my Aguilar Tone Hammer 500 as a DI box pre-EQ through my RMC audio interface going directly into Pro Tools. In part one of this review, I'm going to cover some of the key elements that I look for when choosing an instrument and demonstrate the sound capability in regard to my staple finger sound, which is really a 90%er for me. In part two, I'll demonstrate a couple of other sounds that I use showing the flexibility of this fantastic bass guitar. Now stay with me. Now, in my opinion, the only effective way to evaluate what you're looking for in an instrument is by breaking down the differences and similarities between all the bass guitars that you're interested in and then putting in some quality time playing them. Here's 10 important things to look out for when shopping for a new bass guitar. Instrument range, balance and weight, neck sensitivity or feel, fretboard resistance, string spacing, wood combinations, electronics layout, sound flexibility, performance expectation, and evaluating individual needs. Okay, so let's go through these 10 things that I look for when choosing an instrument. We're going to start off with instrument range. Now, one of the perks about this instrument is that it's a 34-inch scale. Most 5-string basses that are out there that have any really lasting resonance and cut with the low B string are 35-inch scale basses. I don't know really how they did it with this instrument. A lot of the time it has to do with the actual materials used. It is a bolt-on bass. You could see the join at the back here in often some of the science that goes into an actual resonant and punchy B string that feels as though it is part of the actual other 4 strings, has to do with the neck join here. And so it's very responsive with that low B, which is crucial for what I use. And with the 34-inch scale, it's a little easier to play because a lot of those 35-inch scales just feel a little bit too long naturally. It has 24 frets in length, so it's got the double scale, and you know, I need that specifically because I use the entire range of the instrument pretty much in everything that I do, so I want to have that extra range. You have to decide that for yourself if that's what you're looking for, but a lot of times people don't buy the 24 fret range because of sound issues. They can't get that sort of nice sort of Fender-ish type sound with a double scale bass, but with this you can. A lot of the way Fodera has kind of put this together, it is really reminds me of those old 60 Fender jazz basses. If you look at the next point, which was balance and weight, has a very nice balance. It balances very nice here, the way they've got this cutaway here. When you're in sitting position, when you're in standing, it's not too top heavy like a lot of instruments are. It just fits really naturally onto your body. One thing to point out about, for me, to point out about balance and weight is where I wear it. And that is sort of medium height on my body, to where this scoop here on the bass sort of fits naturally into your rib cage. Now, a lot of guys that play in rock bands and they've got the bass down to their knees, or you got these guys with right under their chin, it's going to be hard to get any bass to balance well under those conditions. But if you're like me and you like that sort of medium balance where you've got this scoop, which is sort of built this way to fit nicely ergonomically into your rib cage, then you'll dig this bass. The weight, it's a medium weight bass, not too heavy, but not too light either. So it's worth trying this out to see if you're going to like it. Some people like it to be super light. I've never met anyone to like it super heavy, but I'd say that this is medium weight. Thing is, the payoff is in the sound, and for me, it's perfect. It doesn't give me any type of shoulder ache or the muscle sort of in your back called right by the scapula, that whole sort of rhomboid muscle. It doesn't really put too much stress on that for me. Neck sensitivity in the feel, it's a one-piece hard rock maple neck, which is quarter sawn. That having a neck which is truly quarter sawn and quarter sawn well is critical to having a stable neck. And the payoff for this particular model is it's one piece. You get a lot of three-piece laminates, and in my opinion, the one pieces sound better and are more stable. There's probably lots of different views on that, so do your research, and the best thing to do is to try it out and see, how you like these things. It's got a beautiful slim profile, and to me reminds me of the way that those old Fenders were made. It's just absolutely wonderful to play. And it has the string spacing is 19 mil. So even with the string spacing at 19 mil on a 5-string, for some guys it's a little wide, but a lot of the times when you have basses that are 19 mil, the neck is thicker. So it just makes it doubly hard to sort of, negotiate. To me, this is the perfect balance between the 19 mil spacing, so it feels like I'm playing a Fender Jazz, and I've got this beautiful profile on the neck that's so easy to play. The fretboard resistance, it's got a Birdseye Maple fretboard, which I like because it adds some natural high end to the instrument, and I don't have to sort of dial in too much high end. I hate doing that on the active circuit, and any kind of EQ on my amp I like to leave pretty much flat. So I get some natural high end off of this Birdseye Maple fretboard, and I find the Birdseye Maple to be a little bit more soft in the high end than the standard maple fretboards. So that's something to kind of consider, and I love the sort of tone qualities that the different woods that are used give off on this instrument. It's got mother of pearl dot inlays, and the resistance is beautiful because it really plays well whether you've got a super low action or anything in between, to medium to sort of high action. A lot of basses, when you start lowering the action, they're buzzing all over the place. I would say mine is not super low, but I would say that it was low, and I get a very good response out of it, and also it enables me to dig in a bit. If it maybe was too low, I'd probably have to play a bit lighter. I like to kind of dig into my notes. You could probably hear that in the examples that you're hearing on this video. Okay, the next thing on the list is wood combinations. So it's got a beautiful ash body. You can see that here. Nice grains running through that. And we've already talked about the maple neck and the Birdseye Maple fingerboard. And then it's got a Madrone Burl top to it, which is pretty much just the aesthetics of the instrument. They do another standard version, which they spray different colors, and you don't have the top. It's just an ash body underneath. The top woods, in my opinion, never really make that much of a difference in sound. It's more for aesthetics and look, and I love the look of this. I think it looks really smart and classy. We've also got the this pick guard here, which is a see-through plastic pick guard, which is nice for when you slap. I don't do a whole bunch of slapping, but I still do it a little bit, and I like this pick guard, so it just my fingers don't disappear when I go to pull the string. It gives a little bit of resistance there, and I like that. And I quite like the aesthetics of it as well, the way that it looks. The electronics layout, it uses a Mike Pope 3-band EQ with a passive tone control. So you've got volume, a stack knob here, volume. You've got the passive tone control. You can roll it off to, dial in some really sort of warm lows. And you can, or turn it up and dial in some really subtle highs in there. And then you've got this pickup selector pan pot. And what I really like about this is Fodera is one of the only companies, in my opinion, that does this right, is when you turn this to my right, it puts it onto the back pickup, and when you turn it to my left, it puts it onto the front pickup. For some reason, there's so many other instruments on the market that do that backwards, and I've never understood that, because where I'm sitting and looking, I want to see the direction visually that I'm actually putting my pickup on. So that's very cool, because I've played a lot of basses that have it the other way, and I usually end up having to get a tech to switch that around for me. It's got another stack knob here with a treble and bass boost and cut. I think the treble's set at about 6K and the bass maybe at about 100, something like that. I like to use it in the active mode so I can just boost and cut. I like to cut the treble just a little bit, and as I said, get the sort of more natural highs from the Birdseye Maple fretboard, and then I boost the bass just a little bit. So I usually have the bass boosted at maybe just 2 cents, and then here you've got this cut and boost mid-range switch, and I think that's set at around 400 hertz. It's got two little toggle switches here. One is for an active passive thing, which is in the back. I actually never use it passive. I have on a couple of sessions where people have requested it, but other than that, I've used it just always in active mode. And then this one here, which is a coil tap. And that kind of brings us to the pickups, because the pickups I've actually changed. I'm also an Aguilar endorsee, and I love the Aguilar stuff. I love their pickups. I love their amps. And I wanted to change. It comes stock with the Seymour Duncans, and they do a coil tap in it. And I don't like the whole coil tap thing, because when it gets tapped into single coil and you put it onto the back pickup in a sort of back pickup bias mode, you get a 60 cycle hum, and I don't like that. So I got these new pickups from Aguilar, which are called the Super Doubles. They're very aggressive but really nice and warm, and those are very cool. So this coil tap here for me has been just disengaged. I don't use it. So I basically use 3 sounds. I use the sort of finger sound that you've heard, some of the examples that I've played on this video today. And what I do with that is basically I dial off the back to the back pickup. So from the center detent, I'll go back maybe 2 or 3 cents, but I still keep some of the front pickup in. That's the secret, really, because too many guys roll it all the way off, and it's a little too honky, for that. In my opinion, I prefer it to get a little bit of warmth from the front pickup. Then I've got the passive tone rolled all the way off, so it's just bringing in those natural lows. I've got the bass boosted at about 2 cents, and the treble cut at about 3 cents, and then boosting the mid at about 3, some between 2 and 3, something like that. And that's where I kind of have my finger sound. For I use 2 other sounds basically on this bass, and one is a slap sound, and then the other one is the precision bass sound, which you get a great precision bass sound out of this bass. It's uncanny how good it is. And I'm going to demonstrate that on part 2, which is going to be the next video. So you'll just have to hang tight for the demonstration for that. So the next thing that we want to take a look at is the performance expectation of the instrument. And that's basically, does it fit your playing style, or or your performance demands? And that's something that you got to figure out. So you've got to sort of decide what your individual needs are when going to choose a bass. But I guarantee you, if you put every bass that you decide or you're thinking about deciding to invest in, put it through this filter, and it'll make the choice much easier at the end of it. So I hope that you can go out and try one of these soon, because these new standard line are so good from Fodera, and you're really getting a really affordable price range as well, comparative to their more expensive custom models. As you heard in the opening sequence, my 90% sound produces a very warm but aggressive low mid-range sound that cuts beautifully through the mix. In this next sequence, I'll demonstrate this same sound while playing a couple of choruses of a solo over a minor blues progression. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review. In order to choose the right bass guitar that suits you best, you need to figure out which one enables you to complete your mission as a bass guitarist. This process could take many hours of research, checking out all the different instruments that are available, along with the different capabilities that each bass guitar provides. When doing this, try to keep in mind those 10 characteristic qualities that I look for when choosing an instrument, and you'll have a much easier time making a sound decision. In part 2 of this review, I'm going to break down a couple of the other sounds that I use that make up that missing 10%. So until then, practice smart, work hard, and play creatively.